me get this straight, Professor. You're actually giving us permission to do this?
That is correct, Longbottom.
To blow it up? Boom!
Boom!
Wicked. But how on earth are we going to do that?
Why don't you confer with Mr. Finnegan? As I recall, he has a particular proclivity for pyrotechnics.
I can bring it down.
That's the spirit. Now, where you go?
You do realise, of course, we can't keep out you-know-who indefinitely.
That doesn't mean we can't delay him. And his name is Voldemort. Phileas, you might as well use it. He's going to try to kill you either way. Pier totum locomotor! Hogwarts is threatened. Man the boundaries. Protect us. Do your duty to our school. I've always wanted to use that spell.
Tego Maxima, Pianto Duri, hello.
Tego Maxima, Pianto Duri.
Tego Maxima, Pianto Duri. Hello. Tego Maxima.
Okay.
You're good. Go for it.
Okay. Howdy, y'all. My name is Tyler King. I am a former anti-fascist member. I left the group in 2020. I've been praying for a sign from God to keep speaking out lately, as I've been speaking out over the past year in regards to Antifa and their actions. And a year to the day that I had spoken out, anti-fascist member named Tyler executed Charlie Kirk. So I think God's put me here for a reason to speak to people. In my worst moments of Antifa, I wanted to kill, screaming for the death of my neighbors, wanting to rip a shotgun off the back of a fellow conservative and gun him down in the streets. An impulse that I thankfully never acted on, but a lot of young men and women can't say the same right now. And that's why I want to choose to speak out, because I wanted to kill my neighbor. And many people want to kill their neighbors right now. And Antifa needs to be recognized for the terror organization that it is. And I'm just looking for other people to tell their stories as well. So, yeah.
Well, thank you. I thank you. And just to let everybody know, welcome back to Starkey Farmstead. I did a live yesterday, and this young man reached out in the chat and said, hey, we need to talk. So I told him, I said, reach out to me. And he did within minutes. He bridged that gap, that age gap, that history gap. This is how we change the world. We speak to each other. So I invited him on, would never have him spoke to him. It's the first time we've ever met. Hi, I'm Sam. And what we're going to do today is I'm going to give him our platform, you guys. We're going to let him share his concerns about Antifa. He's going to talk to us about, what can we do as a country to push back against this? How do we recognize? I know at one point, Ty, you had actually brought up the fact that cartels are arming and paying for this nonsense with Antifa. So I want you to share your story with everybody. Folks, get ready to sit down, get a cup of coffee, and let's talk about Antifa. So take it away.
Yeah, well, where should we start? I feel like there's so many places we could go.
Yeah. Well, who's funding them? Let's start there. Like, you hear so many stories. Like, it's Soros, it's the left, it's China. Like, where does the funding come from? Because they are funded. They have to be.
I think, unfortunately, the reality is all of the above. In Oregon, a lot of our DAs were Soros funded. When Trump came in, a lot of those DAs were taken out, and then all of a sudden you started seeing accountability for different anti-fascist members that have been in court for years and years.
You mean district attorneys when you say DAs? Oh,
yeah.
wow. Okay, so it's that high up.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
It's that high up, and after this week, I'm watching the response from the police departments in Portland and Eugene. I'm really starting. I wanted to be the police weren't the bad guys, and we all need to come together like a big old Hollywood movie, and we need to fight back against them. But now I'm watching this like, oh my God, maybe BLM was right and the police were corrupt, and even then they're not going to recognize it. So it's like we're in a really bad situation.
See that Nick Soros got arrested? Let me see if I can share this I wasn't going to share it right this second, but just hold on 1 second. Let me pull this up because I want to share this. This is a great spot to put this in. I also found a Charlie Kirk video where he was talking about, but it says here, this was yesterday. So Portland police arrest journalist Nick Sorter while Antifa attackers remain free. This was October 5th, 2025. There's a picture of him arrested. It says independent journalist Nick Sorter was arrested by Portland police while documenting Antifa violence outside a U.S. Immigration Custom Enforcement facility, sparking widespread condemnation and renewed scrutiny of Portland's handling of public unrest. So that fits the narrative of what you just said. You just told us that the DAs, the district attorneys, are involved with funding as well as covering the crime. So yeah, maybe the local police are involved too.
Yeah. And I mean, if anybody wants a more fictitious but also very accurate lens to look at the world, every time I turn on a Batman movie, I see Portland and Eugene. I see Illinois. I see Chicago. We live in Gotham.
Yes, you do.
But let's get back to the funding real quick because I don't want to get too distracted. On a local level, many of the downtown businesses are anti-fascist sympathizers, and they have been paying for and coordinating a lot of these events. I'll be telling my story in due time about who's going to be paying for my bailout, because I did have people who had millions of dollars who offered to bail me and anybody who got in trouble out. And they were the owner of multiple downtown businesses in Eugene. Again, I want to tell that in the proper time, but that is coming. A lot of these downtown businesses, they will operate with each other. So in Oregon's a very red state. A lot of people wouldn't think that from the outside, but it's all redneck, conservative, Christian, traditional family values. And then you have Eugene, Portland, and Salem, the three cities. So the rest of Oregon kind of has to bow down to the rules of the city. But that's one of the reasons why Antifa's way to get away with so many of their crimes in Oregon is when something happens in Portland, okay, 3 a.m. rolls around, you've rolled out from the riot, you've run away from the police, now you're driving back to Eugene. Okay, now you're getting involved in a riot in Eugene, now you need to go away. Now you're going to Salem, and they just kind of pinpoint like that.
And so you could basically have an underground railroad for Antifa.
Yeah. It's really starting to look like that. Nick Shirley, who's been in the news recently for his coverage of Antifa, who I think he's a brave soul. I agree with your statement. I was just listening to you before we talked. He should probably have some armed security or a gun on him at this point.
Well, my point is this. If you're going to put yourself in that position, and I, like, know how dangerous Antifa is. Okay, so before I got saved, what did I do? I went to prison. I ran with people who carried weapons. I was on the back alleys and the byways that normal citizens don't go. You don't put yourself in those positions without somebody stronger and more able-bodied with you. If they hurt Nick Shirley, so many grandmas in America are going to grab that 38 and walk out their front door. They love him. So protect yourself. You know what I'm saying? Just protect yourself.
Yeah. And I'm really grateful that you put it that way, because I've been trying to warn people for the last year on Antifa how dangerous it is. And so many people have called me crazy, conspiracy theorist, you're obsessed, you need to get on with your life, quit thinking about the past. And I'm just like, y'all have no idea what's coming.
I have no idea.
And as far as some more of the money connections, I got fired from one of my jobs because I was running my mouth and I shouldn't have been. But I was like, okay, well, I need some work and I'm doing this podcast. I've worked at a polling firm doing election polling for like various different elections. So I decided to go back and do that because it was seasonal work and it was basically run by Antifa. So a lot of the Kamala Harris, Donald Trump polls that we were all fighting over during the election, the numbers were being skewed by just a room full of anti-fascist junkies. But I met an individual over the course of that, and it turned out that he was on the run from some of these cartel groups and that he was involved with Antifa for a short period of time as a drug mule. And he just happened to stay embedded in the crowd afterwards because he realized that they were easy to make money on. They were simple-minded. All they wanted to do was party. So he would do that for his bosses. But he had a friend that was executed in Portland. And since then, he had been being gang stalked. And I had been making friends with him. The relationship only lasted a couple of weeks before he tried to kill an active member of Antifa with his bare hands, called me, told me, hey, I think I killed somebody. But he ran his mouth about a lot to me. And essentially, he really put it into perspective that when you have a riot right here in the middle of the city, all your police, all your journalists, all your protesters, everybody's over here. Everybody else is staying home. Okay, well, if you're with these groups and you have assets that are embedded within the police, within the protest groups, all over the city, essentially what they're doing is they're mitigating the chaos and they're keeping an eye on everything because as all of the resources are tied up, they can move children, guns, drugs. That's what this has all been about. It's never been about Black people. It's never been about Mexicans. It's never been about gays. It's never been about Jews. It's never been about Muslims. It's been about our emotional impulses and our childish reactions and our hatred towards each other fueling legitimate globalist operations that involve, quite frankly, modern day slavery. So this isn't
And I
worth it.
appreciate you saying that, Ty, because I'm going to be very honest with you. I once said, I don't remember what video it was. I said, but you know, if I wanted to destroy something, I would create a diversion here, make everybody look left, and Sam would be rocking her real reason on the right hand. The Bible tells us to be as innocent as doves, right? But be as wise as serpents. The problem with modern day Americans is you can't understand that they'll burn a city down to move 1,000 children under the cover of darkness, just like you just said. And when you said it, I felt the check, like the Holy Ghost just checked that box off of the questions I've been having. Why does it seem so theatrical to me? Because it is. It is. These people involved everywhere from the police, everything is simply the cover of darkness to move what is the real money. What is the real money? Human trafficking, children, drugs, guns, illegal aliens. That's your four big, even body ports. Let's be honest. I've done those videos. The organ trade is, they got to have somebody to give up all these organs. So let me ask you a question. Where are they finding all these young people so willing? Are they addicting them to drugs and then basically MK Ultra mind screwing them? Or are these people truly just sober and insane? Like, how is the progression from a normal American 15-year-old to Antifa by 17? How is this happening?
I think it's nuanced depending on how you look at it. And even when I started speaking out, I wasn't thinking really hard of the MK Ultra stuff. We can go into that in a little bit because it's been a weird year, some of the stories I've shared with you. But Andy took notice of this, and it's something that I noticed because I was one of these people. The most dangerous members of Antifa, they're not the locals. Your most devout, angry, violent members of Portland Antifa, they do not come from Portland. They come from southern states. The thing with Oregon is it was a blue state that championed itself on diversity. We're the land of hippies and art and music and all this. And that's why I wanted to move. I had a lot going on at home. I was scared for my life. I had a very angry father who, when I saw the conservative movement, I thought of my father. A lot of this is daddy issues. We all had daddy issues out the butt. But no, so a lot of us will go to these blue areas, and then all of a sudden we're surrounded by other runaways. So like most of my people involved in the group, they would be from like Florida or Alabama or Arkansas or Louisiana or Texas. So we get away from these states, and then we get into our echo chambers, and we're running away from our families. Oh, they're all mean, they're racist, they're homophobic, they're horrible. And you know, like in my case, my father was like legitimately like racist, horrid. You know, he wasn't with the Aryans, but he got involved with the Aryan Brotherhood. I saw a lot that I shouldn't have seen as a young man. But, you know, there was a lot of people there with similar stories who'd seen really, really horrible things, or who had been. There's just a lot of people from a lot of dark situations. But then the other class of Antifa that comes in that begins to fuel that is just these younger kids that they want that trauma. They looked at guys like me and they thought that our stories were cool. Like, oh, this guy has so much going on. He has so much to talk about. I want to be just like him. Yeah, my daddy too. My mommy too. And then when they start to create that fake reality, then all of a sudden it's like they have something to prove. So it all varies, but there's always drugs involved. I never went to a protest or a riot sober, ever.
Right. Is
And
it
the worst
meth
I was
or is it
involved-
ecstasy? Like which drug is the drug of choice?
It's a cauldron. Imagine Powerpuff Girls with the chemical X pouring in the cauldron, and
Yeah.
that's what it's doing, and it's creating essentially these little demonic homunculuses that are running around causing havoc. It's, you know, even when I was a kid, people would have addictions to crack or meth
Right.
or weed or alcohol. In Oregon, because of the strong levels of decriminalization that have gone on there, everybody's doing everything all the time.
Ooh.
I never just did one drug at a time for the most part, you know?
And you're right. That's when the real almost like manifestation of demonic comes out. Because you are right. There's a big difference between an old crackhead or an old meth head or a weed smoker versus somebody that's pumping it all at one time. There's a huge difference in the drug world between those and these. It is. I know. I used to live it. So yeah. That's a scary thought to know that they're not just jacked up, you know, amped up, but they're also desensitized and then tripping on top of it all, you know.
It makes them the equivalent of a Japanese kamikaze pilot. Like, we ask why they're so confident, why they're willing to do these stupid things and put themselves in these situations. Why is this guy threatening to shoot Nick Shirley while there's a sniper rifle pointed in his face? He doesn't care because he's high.
That's right. He's invincible.
Yeah, you feel like a god. And then when you have all these politicians that are telling you, good job, you're being peaceful, and then you have the media getting in on it. You know, in Eugene, whenever the feds came in and they attacked the federal courthouse for the first night, in the beginning of this about a week or so ago, the headlines from the Eugene Weekly and local news outlets and all that were that these people were being kidnapped and abducted by federal agents. Wow. So what did that do to a guy like me back then when the feds first came in originally 5+ years ago? You're doing a bunch of cocaine, you're drinking a lot, you're popping LSD with your buddies, you're watching horrible things online, you're watching people get blown up, you're getting involved in angry politics, and you go outside and you spray paint something on the wall like the secret police are coming, shoot them.
Yeah.
That's what I did.
Because in your mind, that was real. They were your shadow people. They were your tree people. For people who've never done drugs, you may not understand what he and I are talking about right now. But people who are out of their mind on drugs that haven't slept, there's something called tree people, shadow people. You see it, nobody else sees it. It's not there, but you see it. And that's what we're talking about. These kids are amped up. They're sleepless. They're being propagandized by local news media that kidnappings and the government's fascist and they're coming for you. They're coming for you. And like you said, you go outside and it's fight. It's not flight, it's fight. So how do we fix this? How do we stop this? Because it's bad.
I can only speak for things on my end. Because at this point, it's civil war. There's a reason I'm in Texas now, because I knew when Donald Trump got elected, this was going to happen.
Yeah, I agree.
So, like, you know, I'm where I need to be. I think a lot of people, if you're really feeling scared of these areas, you might want to consider moving to.
It's the Holy Spirit. That's what I tell people. You know in your heart. You know in your heart. Oh, can you hear me? When
Yeah.
God tells you to do something, you know to do it. It's just that we think, well, I've got a community, I've got family here. If God told you to pack up and move, now's the time to do it. Because the Lord's been telling my husband and I, it's time to get cattle and to build almost like a compound. And that is, it's not for violence, it's for safety. And we know that we know exactly what we need to do. And we're moving in that direction. Every move we make right now is aiming to get that land, get those cattle, and get those people together because something is coming.
Yeah. And, you know, I think another thing we need to do is, you said the magic word right there, community, family, friends. I don't care if you're right, left, Christian, Muslim, gay, straight, trans, cis, hate that last word, but, you know, whatever.
Right.
We've all been complete butts to each other. We have disrespected each other. We have desecrated each other's homes. Every single person I know, every year, Christmas and Thanksgiving gets smaller. And everyone drifts apart. And then everyone has the same set of excuses for why they don't talk to each other. Well, they don't call me. Well, this. Well, he said something about Trump. Well, he said something about Biden. Well, I'm tired of this. Well, I'm tired of this. And we have destroyed our traditions. We have destroyed our culture. While Antifa and the left are very responsible for that, a lot of it, it's just we're responsible as American citizens for what has happened. So we need to rebuild some bridges. We need to say sorry. We need to tell people, hey, you were right. I was wrong. You know, and at least on my end, one solution that I'm hoping to bring to the table is I want to find other former members who are willing to sell out this insurrection, who know things about the cartels, know things about these businesses, know about the key players, and who will be willing to come forward, either masked or unmasked. I'll give people the option, but I've been one of two people who've left Antifa who've spoken up until last week. There was a third that came out on Fox News. But part of what's been driving me to do this podcast is isolation, despair, rage, resentment, shame, and really just not having anywhere to go and find a guy like me to listen to. Like, I can listen to Andy No, I could listen to Gabriel Nadales, I could listen to other people, but like, it's not like the detransitioners. They all got a million channels that they can go to and they can learn, or all these other subjects under the sun. You can find former Nazis that have spoken out. You can find former ISIS members, former Hamas, former gangsters, former pedophiles. Well, not use the word former too hard there, but, you know, people from bad situations of all walks of life who've coming out. Texas. Sorry.
It's okay.
Coming out, and they've decided to speak. But when it comes into Antifa, I really believe that there's a spiritual block to where even when a lot of the people that I've known who've left, they acted like it was nothing, or like, oh, I was young then. And I'm just sitting here like, that was 5 years ago. You don't get to use that yet. Like,
right. I see what you're saying. Because you're growing up spiritually, you can see the spiritual connections and the damage. Like, you don't just attack people and have that kind of rage in you and then it just disappeared. Like, you need a place to go to work it out. Like, I tell people that about when I got saved. My family, my husband, people protected us while we detoxed, but we still smelt like drugs. It was coming out of our skin. We still looked like we had just done drugs. We still spoke like we had just come out of the crack house. It took time to heal that. It took us going to church. It took us having people calling us on the phone, bringing us nutritious meals and helping us, you know, have people arrested that wouldn't stop bringing drugs. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was a huge disconnect from that world to this one. It doesn't happen overnight, and you guys have nowhere to go. You've got no support group. You've got, I'd almost say that you guys need to have hands laid on you, you know, by healing pastors, and have those things bound and removed. Because when you said that every year Christmas and Thanksgiving is getting smaller for Americans, it hit like I felt it in my gut, because you are right. That is happening. We are destroying this country. There's too much multiculturalism in it. Nobody is allowed. It's insane. This is not even the country I grew up in. I never thought that I would be called fascist for not wanting illegal aliens that we don't know who they are in my country, because I know that they're trafficking children. And I know that, like, I've done the research. So it's shocking to me to see young people not understand that. So are they being taught this in schools across America, this anti-American, or is this something they're finding like on places like Discord? Like what is how are they picking up and finding each other? How are they connecting?
I'd say all of the above. I'm less educated on the education front, but that doesn't mean I don't watch a bunch of people on it. If you want to know about what's going on in Marxism in the schools, Julie Bailing, she's somebody that I've done interviews with. Cara Marcel, who I believe she's one of the heads of the Department of Education in Utah. She was actually there when Charlie Kirk was shot, as was her son, who was a high school senior. She's been doing a lot to detail what's been going on in Utah schools specifically. So I think for anybody wondering about what was going on with Tyler Robinson, she could teach us a lot about what's been going on in that system. The video game spaces are just fierce, it seems. Like I'm a flip phone guy, especially like post Antifa. Like, I don't trust technology. I don't like social media. I don't like being around it. I've never been too involved in some of these like more, I don't know, like these Twitch space type cultures, or any of that. But it's very easy to see from the outside that a lot of them are detached from reality. A lot of people I knew, they would go to the riots and then they would go home and they'd play Call of Duty, or they'd play Overwatch or Fortnite, and they'd do drugs and drink, and then they'd rage about all the people they want to kill. And then they go back out and then they go home and play video games again. Yeah. It's doing something to our minds. Like, when I was a kid, I really didn't get the argument that video games could make us more violent. But over time, it's kind of just like, yeah. And there's no Christian video games. I think there's one Christian video game on Xbox, and I think it does more to make fun of Jesus than anything else. Like, that is a space that has been completely taken over by Hollywood, and just it's all incredibly paganistic and esoteric. And I think a lot of what Hollywood and video games have done is there's been a brainwashing effect that I think is playing into this whole Black Awakening, which I didn't even know you talked about. I saw a little bit of your video on that, and I was like, oh, because for people unfamiliar, I had a friend who was in the Freemasons, and he decided to come out on my channel and speak out. And some of the first things he was telling me, he's just like, I have voices in my head. There's meters going off in my house. Rated beams are spiking. Seeing numbers, demons. And I knew he was telling the truth because guess what? He was my next door Freemason buddy. And back when I was doing drugs before Antifa, I was very obsessed with seeing entities going in all these spaces, what have you. I worked with him very personally on a lot of these things because I knew that he had spoken with different beings, that he had all these different connections. It's too crazy to go too into, but he basically said, he's like, this is some Amityville horror type stuff. This thing is telling me to do things on an impulse. It made him try to kill himself by ramming a dab tool, which it's for smoking dabs, I know
exactly what it is. If
more for your audience.
I may be the first 50-something you've ever met that knows what that is, real talk. Like, I came out of that world, and when I tell people it's a miracle we're alive, I had over $1,000 a day habits. Like real talk. After spending 10 years in college and having children, I went to pain management, and that was it, boo. It was done. It was over. And I got a little taste of the underworld, and it is very, you already know. It's got its own hierarchy, and it's fun until it's not. Until it's not. And then it's dangerous. And untaking yourself. So that's how I know cartel has to be involved. When you said that the other day, it's how I knew you were genuine. Because I remember even back when I first started in the underworld, the drug world, that a lot of the drugs we were using and the materials we were using and the batches we were making, let's just use that word, were being picked up and moved by biker gangs. So I knew that that connection was there. And the bikie gangs from my childhood to my middle age had changed from, you know, either white professionals or ex-cons to a different type of biker gang, one that had like connections to other countries. And it was kind of mind blowing at how quick the global biker gang scene came on. It's the only way I know how to explain it. And so I know Antifa, when I'm seeing these kids they know how to make things that just looking it up should flag you with the way the surveillance is set up now, right? So how are they getting away with making devices that should flag them to the CIA, the ATF, the FBI, but somehow it never does? If you and I look up that stuff, it's going to flag us. So where do y'all have big heads? So do they have people that come in that sit down that's like, okay, here's where you're going to go to use the bathroom. Here's where you're going to go to sleep. Here's where you're going to pick your checkup. Are you getting paid cash? Like, how is all that working? Because there's got to be some kind of hierarchy within these riots.
So this part, it's largely speculation, but I do believe that there were downtown businesses that were involved with these ideologies that were more than likely using misappropriated PPE funds. In the case of the people that were willing to pay me off, they had millions of dollars, and they're funding a bunch of little anti-capitalist kids.
What's the end game?
For them, they think it's social justice. For the people dishing out the money, more profit maybe. But I mean, so these spaces are completely sold out. When Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1 and 2 came out, I went to the movie theater to watch those movies like 3 or 4 times right off the bat. I was younger when it came out, probably like middle school. And I remember crying every time that I would watch it, and I'd still cry. And I didn't get why. And I always told myself, this is going to make sense one day. I just don't know what it means. Like, the Death Eaters have infiltrated the ministry. All of our cities are taken. We have villains and goons and various different factions and anarchists. It may not even be necessarily about profit anymore, so much as like blackmail, threats to people's life. There's a lot of financial crime that happened during the COVID era. And I think a lot of those people are very invested in making sure that muddying those numbers never sees the light of day. And, as far as what you were talking about with, these kids are looking up how to build bombs and they can buy drugs online. Why is it not pinging them? It is pinging them. It's not, those systems aren't to prevent these people from committing tragedies. It's to keep an eye on them like a chess piece and to move them around. My friend Larry, by the end, he was declaring himself to be demon possessed, I am Legion, all of that stuff. Like, the texts are on my channel. It's all there. But he threatened to shoot up the same police department that I protested for many, many years. And this is all public too, because kind of like you were saying, like, if I don't put everything out publicly, like, it's going to come back and bite me. And he agreed to do it all publicly anyways. And I still talk to him on the channel. We haven't talked since this happened, but I operate my channel in a way that if he's watching or a guy like him's watching, they'll feel understood. They'll feel like they can get through the day. And most importantly, that his story in regards to how these things operate gets out. But no, I talked to the police and I gave them the audio. And I said, I'm really scared for my friend right now. I really think he's going to walk through the door and shoot you guys. Oh. And they're like, okay, well, we're going to give you a call back immediately. This is a cause for concern. And I'm like, okay, thank God. 3 days later, I haven't heard anything yet. And I'm like,
so you're trying to stop a tragedy, but they want it to literally happen. Somebody within that office, can you say which police department it is?
Oh yeah, it was the Eugene Police Department.
Okay, so you already said most of them are on payroll.
Yeah. The thing with the police, I think they kind of had their own little civil war during the BLM era. I think some of them sided with the rioters, but then others sided with the militias. And you could see it playing out both ways throughout time. Like there was times where cops left guns on the roof for Proud Boys, and then there'd be times that police would arrest journalists for Antifa. I think we're really getting into Civil War territory. And as of last night too, 400 Texas National Guard members being sent to Oregon. I feel like we're getting really close to the point where the police and the feds are going to start possibly popping shots at each other.
Okay, so thank you. That's what I was trying to. So what you think's probably fixing to happen is these ideologies have rooted in so badly in specific cities, our major cities. Because you said it earlier, I wrote it down because I take notes. You said that all of our cities are controlled by Death Eaters, basically. So just, philosophically speaking, the darkness has taken over all our major cities. So inside of each of those groups, you've got constitutionalists, people who love our country and want to do the right thing, but you also have people that want anarchy, and both sides think they're right. And eventually it's going to come brother against brother.
Yeah. There's no turning back. After Charlie Kirk was assassinated, I knew. I had somebody who was telling me that behind the scenes, Antifa and the Proud Boys in various states were actually trying to have peace talks in moments where the government pulled out. They wouldn't send FEMA aid. The Biden administration wasn't doing its job. So a lot of these groups, right and left, were given orders. Don't bring your guns. Don't bring your mask. Don't bring your flags. We're going to come together. We're going to help out our community and the people during this hurricane. We'll go back to fighting tomorrow. Today is not the day. Anybody who disagrees, you are ordered to stand down.
That
they were trying.
Civil War also happened during World War I and World War II.
Sorry, you cut out a little bit.
Oh, I'm sorry. That what you're talking about is not new. That happened during Civil War, World War I, and World War II. On holidays, they would put their weapons down, cross the field of conflict, share, go back, the next morning begin killing each other again.
Mm-hmm.
So you're saying that before Charlie Kirk was killed, there were these two groups, Proud Boys, Antifa groups, just say black and white groups at each other, set everything down to work together for the good of their individual communities. And then Charlie Kirk was assassinated, and that took it all off the table.
Yeah. So the people watching knew this. Like, there's no way that the government didn't know these groups were trying to make peace. Like, MSNBC doesn't talk about these things because they're too scary. So the general public just doesn't know. Sorry, not to cut you off there.
No, it's okay. I was just sitting here thinking. So do you agree with me when I said that it is just as likely that a neoconservative had Charlie Kirk assassinated as it is a liberal?
I don't know. The Charlie Kirk one's been weird. So I don't take anything off the table or get mad at anybody for anybody's theories or thoughts on it. When I see Tyler Robinson, I see a lot of myself, not just the name, but I look at his family photos. I look at the text exchanges between his friends. I think that he was a liberal. I think he had anti-fascist sympathies, but I think that it's very likely that he had a handler, and that handler could have very well been neoconservative. Matthew Thomas Crooks, he was in a BlackRock commercial. Tyler Robinson had BlackRock connections as well. His father was high up in the CIA and the DoD. What people don't realize, they're like, it's like a movie. How could these kids possibly go and find people like this and get into this whole James Bond type scenario? Hey, buddy, I love you.
Is he playing? He's playing, isn't he?
Oh, he's scratching really hard. But he's like, right, the call.
Yeah.
But it's I was going on adventures. My family was sitting back at home. They thought that I just ran away, that I had a drug problem, which, yeah, it was true. But what was happening? I was getting radicalized. I was seeing demons. I was tinkering with the occult. I lived next door to a Freemason who would tell me billions of stories under the sun about contact with the Greys and the Jinn and the Shadow People, and how he sold to Satan, and the things that would happen in the Freemasons. So, like, you know, I would draw demons in the journals that I would see from my psychedelic trips. I'd have crazy scrawler, like things that you would see in a manifesto that a shooter has now. Those were what my journals looked like. So if I were to, at any point without ever having told my story, gone public with it, anything, just picked up a gun and shot somebody, I would be a conspiracy theorist like heaven. Like, I really would, because people be like, well, what about this piece? What about this piece? What about this piece? And I think that this is becoming the norm for the younger generations, is they're going on adventures and they're meeting very, very dangerous people. And, you know, in Larry's case, you know, my friend, he is dangerous, but there's a lot of dangerous people out there who realize that they're under attack, who see what's happening to their minds, who see what's happening to their communities, and they want to break free of it, and they are begging to break free of it. And I think one thing that can really heal us right now is we need men to stand up, men who've done some things, seen some things, said some things, people who were gangsters, people who were Nazis, Proud Boys, Antifa. We need the most rugged of the rugged to start coming out and telling these kids what it's really like on the other side, because they don't want this type of life. As much as they think they want it, they don't. And we need men to stand up and say that.
And you're right. And it's going to take an alpha male to do it. One that's rough around the corners, because there's a time and a place for gentleness, and there's a time and a place for a real man to step in. This is when you said adventures, that they're going on adventures. Is that equivalent to like the antebellum period where our young went on what they consider like walkabouts to England and to see other, or are they just leaving home and going to places like Portland and Seattle, and they think that they're going there for an adventure, but it ends up literally being a nightmare cult that they're being sucked into?
Basically that's how it went for me. I thought I was just going to go do drugs, become an artist, figure life out, meet a nice person. And it just becomes so much more, because especially in Eugene, it's so small. You stay there for a year or two, you know everybody in town.
Yeah.
So it's not really hard to track what's going on in the city if you have your ear to the ground. And, you know, especially, you know, being a junkie, it's like, I know where the drugs are coming from. I could tell you that the drugs are coming into town clean, but when they get sold, they have fentanyl in them. They're literally these cartel groups are taking in pure drugs, and then they're cutting them, and then they're putting them out on the streets. The homeless in Eugene are dying at a rate higher than ever before. People are being kidnapped. People are being raped. People are being stalked. And a lot of people think that the police just are standing down and they're not doing anything for the protest. My neighbor, before we moved from Oregon, I helped move her to Minnesota. She's a really nice lady. She's probably 70, 80. She's another neighbor who we just wake up in the morning, smoke, talk politics, but she's more of like a Trump's a full-blown fascist and Russia's going to kill us all. And then I'm just me being who I am. And I still call her all the time and we talk like we love each other, because we'll have the biggest disagreement ever. And then we'll just always laugh and be like, I love you.
Right. I try to tell people on this channel, like, stop putting on a spirit of offense and cutting people off because you don't agree with everything they said. Like, that is the mind of a child. Some of my best friends are, if people saw me with them, they'd be like, what is she doing with them? They're the exact opposite, because we have common ground and we have a common, that's why I said, I'm not fixing to be in this Christian army in the name of Charlie Kirk nonsense. Y'all can no, I watched that memorial, and Ty, when that it's like, put the armor of God on it, people are like, wow, and I'm like, Jesus have mercy. Here's the army they've been waiting for. These people want blood. They don't want to see these children, and I'm gonna call them children because they still are to some extent, My kids are the same ages as most of these young people out here throwing bricks and bombs at the police. These kids are lost and they are confused and they are being, if they're not, they didn't get into it on their own. Somebody, it's easy to drug people. I just know it is. Drop it in a cup of coffee, sprinkle it on their food, and before they know it, they're full blown on drugs. I mean,
or give them one drug and tell them it's one thing and have it be another. I've gotten LSD before, and then it turned out it was angel dust, and I wound up in the hospital. It's like nobody.
Funny
really
you said that. Angel dust put me in the hospital too. That's some serious stuff right there, man. I oh my God.
Talk about demons.
Right? I thought it was just me, but yeah, real talk. That put me in the hospital. Yeah, I thought it was just a blunt. Little did I know, little did I know. Spent 12 hours strapped to a bed screaming. It was horrific. Like people just, I have such a love for people who are lost because I was, and I'm not picking up a weapon and taking out my mailman or the lady who has cancer next door to me because she's a Democrat. I'm not doing it. And Americans, you're going to have to make that choice, man. Like, are you going to be manipulated by mainstream media, or are you going to sit down and realize that these are still somebody's kids that you hate them? Like, people, I think if anybody could 100% prove what happened to Charlie Kirk, I think that people would actually pick up weapons. That's how angry Americans are right now. That's the sense I pick up when I watch, social media. We need to organize and we need to really, what were you doing 10 years ago when this was all starting and you were still asleep? Like, you don't just go from zero to weapons. Like, what do you think, Ty, having coming out of it, what do you think we as a country can do to help these young people? What would you encourage people to do if they really want to help?
Well, I know you have a lot of critical views about the handling of Charlie Kirk, and I completely agree with a lot of it. But there's one really good thing that came out of that whole memorial, and I think she knew that things were going to get hot if she didn't say it. But when Erica Kirk said forgiveness is key, essentially.
Absolutely.
The Christians forgave me. The conservatives forgave me. The people in my town forgave me. When I would sneak over to the other side thinking I was going to find a Nazi rally, I would find prayer circles. And I would hear what they would pray for. They would pray that God would forgive them, that they would protect these kids, that they would protect the people praying. They said, Lord, we want to get these children back. We want to guide them to your kingdom. Amen. Dude, that hit me harder than a bullet ever could. I was just like, man, I am
on the wrong side.
Yep. Walking around a church up the hill in Eugene, there's a giant cross there, and we were all told that it used to be a KKK cross. So Antifa wanted to go, and they wanted to tear it down. I think someone even might have tried to drive a truck into it, but it's a big cross, so it's like, if that was the same incident, there was a lot of cross things happening then. But essentially, me and my friend went, and we're dressed in black, and I have my sleeve rolled up, and they can see my pentagram as we're walking by. But we didn't go to be violent. Me and her were kind of getting to the point where we were really questioning a lot of what was happening. And we're like, we want to go to the church to kind of see what's going on just for our own perspective. So we got hot on the bus and we went across town, and all the gates, all the property, it was surrounded by men with trucks. A lot of them had younger kids out there, like teenage age and older, sitting there with AR-15s. A lot of them had Bibles, somebody playing music, maybe one or two Trump flags. But for the most part, it was just a security force, and all they had to do was sit there by that church with their guns, look at us. They knew exactly who we were. They didn't spit at us. They didn't throw anything. They didn't point their guns at us. They just stood their ground, and they just watched us leave.
And I agree with that.
Yep.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, what a lot of people I see, and you might can understand this, I see two extremes. I see this people on the right almost becoming like a cult under the banner of Charlie Kirk. These are people that I don't really believe have a real relationship with Jesus. They're just very political. They call themselves conservative, but maybe they're not even Christian. And then I see everybody else is in the middle, and then I see Antifa on the left. It is these two groups that I am most concerned about. The people in the middle, when I say I'm not picking up a weapon to go after my neighbor, is because I understand what you just said. We can show force without doing harm. I believe every church at this stage, if your church does not have security, you need to push for it. And if your pastor's like,
security.
yeah, oh no, God's got us, stop. Because I have faith, God has me, but I have tremendous faith. Not everybody in that building has the same faith level, which opens a door for demons to walk in. So my thing is this: have armed security at your churches, at your public schools, at your Christian schools and organizations. Show
And vet them
force.
thoroughly. Vet
Yeah.
them thoroughly, because that's a big problem we're having in society too. We don't vet people anymore. We let
Amen.
the worst of the worst in positions of power. And sorry, you got to vet these people like crazy, and also arm the teachers. My mom's a teacher and she's armed, and you know what? I feel a lot safer knowing that she can handle herself if something comes to worse. And you know what? When teachers are armed, it doesn't make them go gun crazy, and it scares them, actually, as it should, and it makes them realize, well, I never want to be in this situation. Maybe we should do something a little extra for the kids today. And that, I think that's brought a lot of humanity back to these schools. If anyone's going to any of these political events and you care about it, volunteer to be security, or just if you're in an event that you can hear something from the outside, just go walk around the building. At this point, look at the rooftops, look at the water towers. Like,
that shocked me I think that's what bothered me most about what happened to Charlie is we saw that same playbook with President Trump just a few months before, and nobody looked up.
yeah, it's like, it's good that you're going to hear a message, but like all the phones in the world, thank God we have them, or we won't got some of the clips, but people live like this now. Just, they're just always staring at their phones. This is how people live. This is why the gray aliens have bent necks. That's what we evolved into.
It's funny you said that. So my husband is one of those men that faces the door. We go somewhere to eat. It's behind me, like the doors where that big TV is. My husband watches. I'll walk like this sometimes because I'm always busy, My husband just always has his arm. He's so flipping aware. He is so aware of his surroundings 24/7. You will never catch him in public with something in his friggin' face, ever. He's not recording. He's not taking pictures. If he's in public, his phone is not even in his hand. It's in the vehicle. He leaves it. We need more men like that. Honest to God, we need more men to realize how close we are to a civil war, because I'm heartbroken. I'm heartbroken because I was an educator. So I obviously love kids, like love them. And I'm looking at your age group, and you guys are being totally decimated. And I see people my age, their answer to that is to want to fight you. And it hurts. It hurts in my gut, because I'm like, that is the last thing Jesus would want. Would he want you to defend yourself? Absolutely. I do not believe you should ever be somebody's punching bag man. Never. I mean, I carry weapons. I train my dogs to bite. I'm serious about it. I got alarm systems. I've got one right here behind me. You can probably see the scope of it. They're always with me. But at the same time, I've never hurt someone physical, and I never want to. But too many Americans are one extreme or the other. Like moderation in everything. You know what I'm saying?
No, absolutely. And what I want people to realize, and I'm glad you're saying all that, is Antifa is cannon fodder. They are not the real enemy. They are the forces that the real enemy has gathered, so that the people who are angry, someone listening to this right now who's just like, screw this guy, these people deserve to get the snot beat out of them, you're going to be exhausted by the end of that fight. A lot of people that I knew, people of Jewish and Roma descent, mind you, who are going in thinking that we were actually fighting Nazis, that we were actually going to prevent a Holocaust. They went into BLM and all this stuff. Like, we can't let it happen again. It's going to be the Holocaust. You know, we'd write numbers on our arms. We'd all the things. And you know what that did? It demoralized them. And by the time all the Muslim extremists came around and all the white kids started putting towels on their heads, these people were left broken. They felt like the fight was not worth winning anymore. They had exhausted all of their resources. They had exhausted all of their strength. A lot of people who were a part of that wound up killing themselves, overdosing on drugs. Like, no one too personal to me, but stories that I've heard. The Jewish person actually that I'm talking about was actually very close to me. She was part of the federal courthouse attacks. She had friends who had helped set the Portland Police Department on fire. I got to see videos that MSNBC never got to see on that. But she was of Jewish descent. And yeah, by the end, you know, she's declaring herself to be non-binary. She's strung out on drugs all the time. She had a fentanyl overdose. And she's probably looking at what's happening right now, wanting to kill herself. That's the reality of what we're dealing with. So anyone that may be actually causing a Holocaust that would come round her up, well, now she's just limp, weak, feeble, and broken. So she's easy to pick up and drag to the camp. So if you exhaust all of your resources on Antifa, if you exhaust all of your fight, all of your mental energy thinking that these are the enemies, you've already lost.
I agree. So there's something behind Antifa. So if you were going to try to help somebody, say President Trump calls you tomorrow and says, who is behind Antifa? What would be your most logical, educated guess?
One sec. Texas. I love you, bud. Chill. He's spending a lot of time looking at the Mexican cartels and the Venezuelan gangs and all that, and that's fantastic. We should be looking at that. Portland is operated by China, communist cartels. I think Donald Trump, from what I'm hearing, it sounds like he's already been authorizing the military to go into a lot of these underground tunnel systems, a lot of these Freemason structures. The Shanghai tunnel system in Portland is what is being used to traffic kids. Everybody knew this like prior to Antifa. That's where kids disappear. That's where drugs go. It used to be an old slave trading route back in the day. There are underground tunnel systems, underground facilities all across Portland. It's not just about what's happening in the cities. It's about what's happening underground. There is a war beneath our feet that nobody's paying attention to. And I pray to God that he is, because that's where a lot of the most dangerous players live. They don't live in the downtown buildings. They don't live in the apartments. They live down there, and they diddle kids and they talk to Satan. So
I totally agree. The Lord just started opening my eyes to what's under the ground. And I know truckers that watch me, they long haul. So it's put me on because I run my mouth, you know, but they send me stuff. And I'm like, oh my Lord, God have mercy.
My grandma went into the underground tunnel. She was like, it was miles, because my grandpa used to be a trucker. And oh my God, the stories you'll hear.
I know.
And we wonder why there's earthquakes all the time.
Yeah. And so I agree. And look, I appreciate you so much for coming on, your bravery. You mind if we pray real quick to wrap this up, and then I'll get this uploaded for the world to see, but I want to pray for you and all these young people. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, I come with my brother, and Father, we stand in the gap for these young adults, these children. Lord, we know that they are lost, that they are deeply afraid, and they don't know where to go because the adults in their lives have failed. So I pray right now, Father, that you will send your angels and your children to fill in the gaps. May they be protected. May they be saved. Help them find forgiveness for themselves and help them come to you, because you know what, God, without Jesus, nothing is worth it. And I just thank you for this young man, Lord. I ask that you send people to protect him, that your angels guard over him, that you guide his steps, protect his mind. We bind and rebuke every weapon that the enemy may form against him. Lord, we pray that the light shine in all the areas of darkness on this earth, and especially, Father, in all the deepest, darkest places of these underground tunnels. May the real truth come out. May your real children stand up, and may we realize that the battle begins and ends on our knees. In Jesus' most precious name, amen. Thank you so much, Ty.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. It's been a wonderful experience. Hopefully we can talk more in the future.
Absolutely. I want to have you back on in about a month. My husband has surgery on the 14th. So we're going to start these surgeries to figure out with his brain aneurysm. But first we have to fix this, and then we'll go back and see what we're going to do with the aneurysm. But I absolutely, while he's in recovery, I'll reach out to you in about a week and a half. Email me your phone number because I have your email, but I don't have your phone number. And I'll reach out to you and maybe we can do a Zoom while we're in recovery because I'll be stuck there. I'll have my computer and nothing to do. So we can do some more deep dives. You know what I'm saying? Okay. Really, now that you've told the kind of the out picture, I want everybody to see individual things. And maybe we can start doing some research together and put together some more in-depth videos. And maybe, just maybe, we'll find people that want to help these young people. We can start getting that information out over the airways,
Yeah.
and then you can start directing people from, tell everybody what your channel is real quick.
Oh, yeah. It's called the Triple B Collective. Triple B stands for Build Baby Build. Okay. But you can find me on YouTube. For a lot of the older crowd out there, I use a lot of music. I use a lot of movies. I like to put a horror twist on it because, quite frankly, a lot of this is horrifying. So there's a darker element on the channel, but that's because I'm trying to get the attention of these kids. People like this is something that I would watch. So if you come by and you're just like, what is this guy on? It's artistic expression. It's me trying to prove a point. So just know if you come over to my channel, it gets really wacky really quick.
That's okay. And I remember you were wonderful because I remember I emailed you and I was like, okay, so we just have to clean up a little bit because a lot of really conservative people watch me. But I wanted you guys to understand that he's bridging a gap between their world and ours. And Ty, we need people like you. You and I both know that if you want to speak to a drug addict and you don't know the lingo, they're not going to listen to you.
Yeah.
So what you're trying to reach are kids who are looking at you for authenticity. And if you don't have the right signs, if they don't feel some kind of comradeship with you, camaraderie, they're just going to turn a blind eye. They're going to think that you're another fake. So I appreciate you being able to be the man God's creating you, but still being able to reach back and pull forward. And what you're doing, we need 1,000 more of you in every city and every state. So I hope people that watch you on this show will find you, support you, and together we can help build a support group that then you can start funneling these kids out of Antifa, but into safety. Maybe we can find churches and communities that'll take them in and help detox them and deprogram them,
Yeah,
and that's
absolutely.
going to take a community.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, just to let your audience know, nothing's set in stone yet, but it's looking like I will be talking to Andy No, as well as Gabriel Nadalis, the other former Antifa guy before. And yeah, that's my mission. Is I just want to find some other people, even if it's just one or two. Like, there has to be a support system for these people. Like, people need to hold firm. We need to call terrorism terrorism. We need to not. This isn't to say like, oh, they're so sweet and innocent. Look at him shoot somebody in the middle of the ice facility. No. We still call terrorism terrorism. Acts of evil. There's a point when you cross a certain threshold that it's like, that's not who my channel's catered towards. My channel is catered towards people who almost pulled the trigger but didn't. Those kids can be saved.
Yes,
and I think a lot of people right now are probably living in depression because they don't know where to go. I've had thousands of views taken off my channel out of the blue. I faced all the technological adversity under the sun, and someone's got to fight for these people so that they can tell people what happened, because we've already lost the history of 5 years ago. We're repeating the history of 5 years ago, not 100 years ago, not 200 years ago, 5 years ago. It's people don't know what happened yesterday anymore. And that's a severe problem.
Oh my God, you're very wise. So look, let me give you some advice. You need, and I hate nonprofits. Anybody that's ever watched me knows this. I true to God, I hate nonprofits. You need to start one. You need to write federal grants, and you need to make sure you get this done while Trump is in office. And the reason I say that is I think Trump's government will fund to house some of these young people and help transition them back into society in a healthy way. Now, that's going to take tremendous groundwork. You're going to have like you said, vetting. You're going to have to make sure that they don't send the darkness in with somebody and try to tear it apart from the inside. You and I know how easy that is. But you are going to need funding. And that type of funding is going to have to come from state, local, or federal, which means you're going to have to be a nonprofit. I don't see it being any other way, but that paperwork isn't that hard. Getting vetted by the federal government, I did it, is not that hard. And then start writing those grants from the angle of saving these kids that were Antifa. They know it's a terrorist group, but what do we do with them once they don't pull the trigger? Those, like you said, those kids are salvageable, but there has to be somewhere and someone to help them back. Look, we got plenty of recovery for drug addicts, and half of them are just crap, right? But every now and then you find a gem in there that really cares. There are churches that will work with you, that will get behind that, but that's a lot. It's so risky from start to finish not to allow the wrong people in, you know?
Oh, it's definitely a thought to explore. I'd love to talk with you more about that sometime, because I don't know. I got to do something. Like, I was this close to backing out before Charlie Kirk got killed. Like, I was ready to pull the plug. I had a video up being like, I'm done with this. You people are insane. I can't find anybody else. Like, I'm locked in at this point. Like, something's got to give. Like, there has to be support for these people. This is how you're going to stop the insurrection. It's by having them sell it out. Like, these.
We need turncoats. We need spies. We need some of these kids to come over and say, I'm really afraid. They're planning to, XX and X in 12 different cities at one time, and I don't want to be part of this. Because like you said, they have Jewish kids really believing there's going to be a Holocaust. But I've said multiple times on my video since Charlie Kirk, there's fixing to be another Holocaust. So it's not just kids in Antifa. That's the crazy thing. Some of the things that you guys believed in Antifa are true. I never saw that till Charlie Kirk was killed. And then I heard the truth coming out of people's mouths. And I realized that these kids they're not wrong. Some of what they believe is right.
Yeah. They're missing a lot of pieces, but they know things. Like,
right. So, but because I don't know. Somehow we got to bridge the gap, because there is fascism in this country, but who is it? Mm-hmm. The left says it's the right says it's the left. And I'm sitting in the middle doing this, and I can see it on both sides now. I couldn't before. I can now. And I do believe there's fixing to be another Holocaust in this world. I absolutely do. And it's odd that you said that Jewish kids are joining Antifa because they see it too, but they think it's going to come from the right. And the right keeps thinking it's going to come from the left. And now that I'm sitting in the center looking at both groups like this, I'm like, oh, wow, we have more in common than we don't. Mm-hmm. So it's time to come back. Charlie Kirk was killed so that Antifa and Proud Boys could not sit down and talk. To stop that, to rip it back apart. The healing was beginning. Thank you. I really appreciate you. You gave me a lot to pray about, a lot to think about, and you and I will have a lot more conversations.
Absolutely. Bless you. Thank you for having me, and thank you guys for listening.
You're very welcome.
This is an excerpt of how the Christmas truce unfolded, according to Henry Williamson, a British Army officer who was there. For weeks we had lived in flooded trenches. The Germans were 80 yards away. Our trench was enflated. We lost many men. shot by snipers. Night after night, since the tailing off of the Battle of Ypres, we had toiled in the parapets, filling sandbag with clayey mud, squelched through muddy lagoons of woodland tracks, carrying rations, duck boards, pumps, and ammunition. We were volunteers, rushed out to help General French's shattered expeditionary force. A few weeks before, we had been schoolboys, bank clerks, undergraduates, medical students. Now our lives were ravaged. Some of us, the young ones who thought of their mothers, were near to despair. We were without hope, without horizon. At first, trench life had been interesting, even enjoyable. There was fun cooking our own bacon and making tea in the wood while shrapnel cracked overhead. Good sport stalking the wild geese in the marshes, satisfying to feel the soft hairs of our unshaven chins. The regulars were decent chaps, heroes of Mons. But the rains fell, and the trenches filled almost waist high. After a few days, we could scarcely move our legs, nor did we seem to need food. At night, we dragged ourselves out of the ditches and moved about, uncaring of bullets aimed at random in the dark. All night we worked, carrying parties, pumping fatigues, parapet building. At dawn, we slid into water again and set ourselves to endure the gray daylight. Even now, so long afterwards, when I hear rain on the tiles overhead, the ghost of that time makes me draw the blankets closer around my neck. On Christmas Eve of 1914, we were in the support line about 200 yards inside the Ploegsteert wood. It was freezing. Our overcoats were as stiff as boards, our boots were too hard to move, but we rejoiced as the mud was hard too. Also, happy thought we would be able to sleep that night. Inside a new blockhouse of oak boughs and sandbags called Piccadilly Hotel. No bed but the cold earth, no blankets even, but sleep. Sleep. Then came a message from brigade headquarters, brought I think by Second Lieutenant Bruce Bairnsfather of the Warwicks. Wiring parties were required in no man's land all night. And there would be a moon. We would have to work only 50 yards from the German machine guns in the White House opposite the eastern edge of the wood. 2 hours later, we filed out of the dark trees into the naked, moonlit terror of no man's land, holding our shovels besides our faces in hope of protection against the expected mortar blast. The moon was high and white among the frozen clouds. We were visible. Someone slipped with a clank of a spade or rifle. We flung ourselves on our faces and waited. But the battlefield was as silent as the moon. For an hour, we worked in silence, in a most mysterious soundlessness. What had happened? We began to talk naturally as we drove in stakes and pulled out concertinas of prepared wire. There was no rifle fire, either up or down the line, from way up north beyond Ypres to south beyond Armentières and the French army. At midnight, we heard laughing as we worked. We heard singing from the German lines, carols, the tunes of which we knew. I noticed a very bright light on a tall pole raised in their lines. Down opposite the East Lancs Trench, in front of the convent, a Christmas tree. With lighted candles. Was set. On their parapet. The unreal moonlight life went on, happily. Cries of, "Come on over, Tommy, we won't fire at you." A dark figure approached me, hesitatingly. A trap. I walked towards it with a bumping heart. "Merry Christmas, English friend." We shook hands, tremulously. Then I saw that the light on the pole was the morning star. The star in the east. It was Christmas morning. All Christmas Day, gray and khaki figures mingled and talked in no man's land. Picks and spades rang in the hard ground. It was strange to stare at the dead we had only glimpsed at swiftly from the trenches. The shallowest graves were dug, filled, and set with crosses, knocked together from lengths of ration box wood, marked with indelible pencil, for king and country, for Vaterland und Freiheit, fatherland and freedom. Freedom? Freedom? How was this? We were fighting for freedom, and our cause was just. We were defending Belgium, civilization. These fellows in gray were good fellows. They were, strangely, just men like ourselves. How can we lose the war, English comrade? Our cause is just. We are ringed with enemies. The war was thrust on us. We are defending our parents, our homes, our German soil. The most shaking, staggering thought. That both sides thought they were fighting for the same cause. The war was a terrible mistake. People at home did not know this. Then the idea came to the young and callow soldier that if only he could tell them at home what was really happening, and if the German soldiers told their people the truth about us, the war would be over. But he hardly dared to think it. Even to himself. The next day was quiet, and the next. Waving hands from the trenches by day, singing and reflected blaze of trench bonfires at night. It was a lovely time. On the third afternoon came a message from the Germans. At midnight, our staff officers visit, and we must fire our automatic pistolen. But we will fire higher. Nevertheless, please keep under cover. p.m. Berlin midnight, we saw flashes going away into the air. 2 days later, an army order came from GHQ to the effect that men found fraternizing with the enemy would be court-martialed and, if found guilty, would suffer the death penalty. And again in that place, the Veyri lights soared over no man's land at night, and bullets cut showers of splinters from trees, and sometimes human flesh and bone. So hope sank into the mud again, but did not die. Despite a withering anew as each poor human unit fell in machine gun and mortar blast and colossal reverberating rending of the shells of those 4 years. The years whose truth seems to be incommunicable. Sometimes, as one listens to what people say, here in the England a generation died for, it seems like almost pre-war again. Can it be that we lack imagination to see the other fellow as ourselves? Henry Williamson continued to fight. He was eventually wounded by gas. Then when he was declared unfit to serve in the army, he then volunteered for the Air Force to see if that could get him back to the front. But he didn't make it back to the front, luckily, because the war ended. The war ended. But not before 20 million were wounded and 17 million men were killed. Men. Just normal men. Gone. So, this holiday season, please think of those men and women around the world in the trenches now, risking life and limb for what they believe in. For freedom. And think of the civilians trapped in those hellish places, suffering in the merciless path of war. And finally, as Henry Williamson asked, let us not lack the imagination to think of other men as men. Men like ourselves. Men like us. Merry Christmas to all. And may there be peace on Earth.